Grand Risings. Today is Saturday, March 19th, and this is your Shekinah Wisdom Podcast. Today, my lovelies, today is Self-Care Saturday, and you know what Self-Care Saturday is about. Self-Care Saturday is the day that we pour into ourselves unapologetically. One of the things that self-care involves is you setting healthy boundaries. These healthy boundaries are set and erected in order to protect you and those around you. We understand how it can protect you, but how can it protect those around you? All right. So when you're a solid person and you have unsavory people around you, and you decide to keep them around you, their karma for doing things against you is going to come back. They're going to get the karma for dealing with you in the manner that they do. So it behooves you to remove yourself from those scenarios, not only to protect yourself, but also to protect others, right, from going through unnecessary conflicts. Not everyone knows the repercussions for going against whoever they're going against, and especially if it's you, but you're the best knower of that scenario. And in knowing that, sometimes you have to protect people by removing yourself from the equation, especially when you see that they're on a suicide mission. The one thing that I have learned to do is to preserve my peace at all costs, right? And it wasn't easy to get to this point, right? Especially when you grow up in chaos. When you grow up in a chaotic environment, finding peace and being able to develop inner peace is a task, and it's something that's not easily obtained. But once you do the inner work and create that inner peace, you're not going to compromise it for anyone. That inner peace that you develop, that is your inner sanctuary. That is your haven. That is the place that is there to protect you from the world, right? And why would you compromise it once you have gained it? One of the things that growing up in a toxic environment could do is make you toxic, and you won't even know you're toxic. Why? Because you grew up in that environment and you think it's normal. However, once you realize that you are toxic and you don't make those changes and you continue to inflict that toxicity on others, there's going to be serious repercussions. And that is why I remove myself from certain scenarios. Because people might not know you, but you know who you are. And certain people have certain gifts and certain abilities, right? In life, we all do. We have different individual gifts and abilities, right? But there are certain people who have gifts and abilities, and they're being protected on high. And if you do things against those people, your repercussions could be really bad. And if you don't want that for the people around you, you will remove yourself accordingly. Because you know who you are, whether they do or not. There is always going to be people challenging you. There's always going to be people who think that you are not who you are. But you don't have to allow that to penetrate who you are, right? Just show and prove through your daily actions. Like, don't go out of your way to show and prove, but just continue showing up as yourself. What's in the dark always comes to light. people will always end up seeing the error in their ways, just like you had to along your journey. There's nobody exempt on this planet from karma. Karma is like your final exam. It determines whether you level up to the next lesson, or do you have to repeat the same lesson over and over again. And if you have to repeat it, that means you're not learning from your life experiences. And you're going to have to go over those lessons over and over again till you get it. So that's why it behooves you to study. Study yourself. Study the way you move. Study the way you think. Study the way that you react to certain scenarios. And when you do that intense studying of yourself, you will start looking at what triggers you and why you're being triggered. Some people don't even know they're being triggered in their day-to-day life, right? They don't know that little things that is said that they just blow up and, get bent out of sorts. But if you see that, you're not supposed to go and just be combative back and forth with them. Just make sure that you're not behaving that way. People are our reflections. Exaggerated so it may be, like a beauty mirror. You know how a beauty mirror has two sides? One of the sides, everything looks regular. And then the other side of the beauty mirror, everything is magnified so you can see your pores and everything else. Well, people are like that beauty mirror. They are showing you your pores and everything else exaggerated so you can actually do the work to heal. Because if they showed up on the same level and it wasn't exaggerated, you would co-sign the behavior and you would not be willing to make the changes necessary. So that is why no matter who comes to my life, whether they trigger me, make me happy, make me miserable, I know that individual will sit in to teach me something. And I begin to start looking for what am I to learn from this experience. Sometimes it's simple as you can't interact with certain individuals. Or sometimes it's, this is your mess. This is the stuff that you got going on with yourself. How are you going to fix it? And then you figure it out and you fix it. That's what this life is all about. You're not going to walk through this life without having to go through any obstacle whatsoever. You wouldn't be here. We're going through these challenges and obstacles because we got a lot of different lessons going on in this planet. Everybody's going through these lessons simultaneously, and that's why it seems like a big mud pie, but know that we are all going through these lessons together. Like, some people actually believe that there are people that do not go through karma. But I have gifts. I know otherwise. They sure enough do. This gift taught me that there's nobody exempt from the universal laws of karma. What goes around comes around. I don't care how you try to chop it up. It happens. And knowing that is not to make you that person's going to get their whatever they did back. But you're going to get whatever you did back too. So that's why we can't act high and mighty. Just because we learned something yesterday and someone else didn't learn that same information, we feel like we're above everyone else. You can't act like that. Why? Because how about the information that you learned yesterday that you thought you learned? That was wrong too. So you're both wrong. That's the humbling lesson that life gives us, right? Because everything we learn from someone else. Everything we learn from someone else. So how can you truly 100% say that this is what it is with no error? We don't know. All we know is what we were programmed and conditioned to know about what's going on in our environment around us. So that is what humbled me in life, right? Because a wise man knows he knows not. And that's when you switch from being a teacher to a student, and teacher and a student. And it's a never-ending cycle throughout life. You're always going to be a teacher. You're always going to be a student in some shape, form, or fashion. But what are you learning? What are you sharing? Right? Are you sharing confusion, hypocrisy, things that do not connect together? If so, why? What are you doing it for? Right? What are you doing it for? It's like the grass is always greener until you realize that shit is astroturf. Yes, it's not real. Tend to your garden, right? You focus on your garden, your personal garden. Make sure there's no weeds strangling out the life that's trying to grow in your garden. And you preserve your inner garden. That's your inner sanctity. That's your inner peace. All of that dwells in your garden. So that's why it's important for us to maintain our garden. One thing that I'm so thankful for in life is these humbling lessons. Because I look back at my younger years and I realize how arrogant I was. And in life, you're going to see people who reflect the past, present, or your future self, right? And sometimes when your old self pops up and you interact with your old self, it can unnerve you. And it can revert you to acting like your old self again. If you're not careful. If you don't realize that lesson was sent in your life to teach you that you have to grow some more. You haven't totally grown past that level of arrogance. A lot of people that are arrogant, let me tell you something. They're the ones that are hurt. Hurt people hurt people. That's what they do. Because they've been hurt. They've been taught toxicity and that's all they know. They think that toxic love is pure love because they haven't experienced anything else. So when you encounter people like that, you can't allow them to deflate who you are because they're not feeling good about themselves. People that don't feel good about themselves, they feel the need to tear down others. Right? When people aren't authentic, they will tear down others that are authentic. Why? Because it will shed light on who they are as individuals. Because now, when in comparison to somebody authentic and they know they're showing up inauthentic, they'll know people will be able to see it right off the back. And so, what do? They'll try to make you think the person that's authentic is inauthentic. When in actuality, it's the person that is claiming that others aren't being inauthentic. All based on that hurt. You have to let it go. If you don't know how to let go of the things that hurt you in the past, you're going to be bound by them forever. You know how many stories I hear where people are projecting the pain from their past onto every and anything in all of their life circumstances, and then they're wondering why things aren't changing in your life. I fell in that paradigm at one time, where in my mind, I was feeling that all men were dogs. And guess what men did I attract when I had that ideology? All of the dogs. Because this is what my concept was. This is what I believed to be true. So life made sure that there was validation of that truth over and over and over and over and over again. So that's why it's important for us to analyze what truths do we hold dear to us. And how is having that truth going to affect us and those around us? We really have to reprogram our minds. We went through so much programming, right? Think about it. TV programming, after school programming, television channels. What are you channeling? These are the things that are affecting us every day. What type of music do you listen to every day? What frequency is that music set at? A lot of people don't even think about that. They don't know about binaural beats. They don't understand that certain sound vibrations affect people in different ways and can create chaos and confusion in the wrong hands. And music has been in the wrong hands for a long time. Even Kanye was talking about the 808 drum beat and the frequencies that it was set at and what it does. We have to wake up to the constant manipulation that we have been under. And these type of manipulations explain how we show up every day. You know, there's so many things. Like when you realize how much studies have been done on the minds, there's and those things getting in the wrong hand. Like a lot of stuff that people come up with, it's for a good purpose because there was someone that really wanted to help and change the world. But that same invention in the wrong hands can create chaos. How many cartoons and movies have we seen that play out? You know, to give you a visual of how that can work. So that's why it's important for you to be mindful of your day-to-day actions and thoughts. Think about the origin of them. Like, does this feel right? Does this feel like me? How do you know what you feel like? Most of us don't. When's the last time have you spent time with just yourself? Like, really spent time with yourself? Like, quality time with yourself. That's what Self-Care Saturdays is all about. It's about spending that quality time with yourself so that you can grow and check in with yourself and figure out what's going on. Like, hey, self, what's going on today? How are you feeling? What can I do for you? Your wish is my command. That's how we treat Self-Care Saturday, right? That's when you look at yourself as royalty for the day and show your gratitude for you. You can't expect people outside of you to have gratitude for you if you don't. If you don't appreciate you, why would someone outside of you appreciate you? And we see a lot of that going on. There's people who are hating themselves, throwing hatred at people externally. But the truth is, it's not that they hate the people outside of them. They hate themselves. They hate their circumstances because they were taught to hate themselves and their circumstances. But when you're taught to love yourself despite the circumstances, you'll always triumph. These are the things that we have to start really thinking about in life. How are we showing up every day? How is your mental health? We don't talk about these things. There's a lot of people suffering with mental health issues. And they're undiagnosed mental health issues. They don't even know that they're displaying these toxic ways and behaviors. They think it's normal. And they think other people would put up with it. And this is what fueled me to start doing what I do, right? Because I was looking around seeing broken people with no handbook. Because I was that broken person walking around with no handbook. And so I had to create one. Because I realized it was necessary, not only for me, but for those around me as well. And they benefited from it as well. And that's why I share every day. I give back in some shape, form, or fashion. Whether it's through the neighborhood children, whether it's through my neighbors and, if they need help with anything, a ride or a food, something to eat or anything like that, or whatever it may be, sitting on boards, whatever I feel that I can do to help facilitate the health and wealth and wellness of the world around me, I'm going to do it. Because that is my life path. That's part of my life path. That's not everybody's journey. Not everybody is supposed to show up that way. That's why it's important for you to get with yourself. So you can figure out what your individual path is. Right? And then you can start getting information once you get that information that you need to get information. Because we all need you. I want you today on this self-care Saturday, I want you to do more so you can hurt less. Do more healing so you can hurt less. Aren't you tired of being triggered by things? Aren't you tired of having to block out memories of experiences that you've gone through? You don't have to do that anymore. Once you commence on the healing journey, you could drop all of your burdens and let all of that go. Aren't you tired of carrying all that baggage? Let it go. Let it go. As long as you're carrying the baggage from yesterday's karma, you'll never get today's reward. If you need support on your healing journey, you can head over to ShekinahWisdom.com where you can book an appointment. If you want art therapy, you can head over to IAMcollection.com. And if you want to support the work we're doing here, you can Cash App Unearthing the Truth. All right, my lovelies. Until our minds meet again, you have a wonderful self-care Saturday.